Three positives for American agriculture as we drop the boom on 2025 and ring the confetti, ringing in 2026. I have been somewhat dour in many of my commentary pieces about agriculture, so I want to give you three positives to think about as we move into 2026 and beyond. It's no question that agriculture has been in a struggle right now. 2025 was year two of an agricultural economic downturn. We've got trade disputes. We've got a lot of bad news out there. So what are some positives? Well, I'll give them to you, and they all begin with R. First off is RFK Jr. I'll get to it. A return to real and a realization setting in. Let's talk about RFK Jr. I was as concerned as you, probably more so. He's got a history of suing companies over usage of things like glyphosate. I thought, man, we're going to lose all the tools that help us grow food. Hasn't happened. It looks like it's not going to happen. If the spotlight is on using less harsh chemistry, less synthetic fertility, using more regenerative practices, that's probably ultimately okay, because in an era right now where we're not profitable and we're completely oversupplied, we can afford to do this. $700 million of regenerative practice money is supposed to be flowing out of USDA. There is a tie-in to RFK Jr. with that. If you're going to do new practices or have these imposed upon you, you might as well get paid for it. So it's carrot versus stick. Am I saying that I'm the biggest RFK Jr. fan? No, but let's talk about another thing that he's done for us. He's very anti-ultra processed foods. We in agriculture complain daily about the amount of the food dollar that comes back to the farm. Only 14 cents on the average dollar spent on food comes back to the farm. Where does that go? The middleman. Well, let me tell you who the middleman is. It's about 15 middlemen. And the more a food is processed, the more of that food dollar goes to the processor. RFK Jr. might have an effect of focusing the attention back to real food. The nearer it is to the farm, the more profit ends up in our pockets, not just the middlemen. Which brings us to point number two, that's something to be positive about. A return to real. In episode 372 of The Business of Agriculture, that was about a year ago, I recorded an episode with Nina Teicholz, author of The Big Fat Surprise. She pointed out clear back a decade ago that fat has been demonized and maligned by bad science. We're seeing this finally come to the consumer marketplace. The consumer does not fear fat. What did we just see in 2025, at the end of 25? That whole milk is going to be back in the schools because that whole anti-fat crusade has lost its steam. A return to real. Protein is as hot as it's ever been right now. Animal protein, despite high beef prices, we're eating as much beef as we have for the last 5 or 10 years. This is all a good thing. A return to real that's positive means the consumer wants protein, wants animal products, isn't afraid of fat. These are good things for us. Also, episode 381, I talked about the protein craze with the gentleman from Rabobank, so you can go and check that out. RFK Jr., a return to real, and the third thing that can be fashioned as a positive, a realization. You know, I've been around for a while. I lived through the 1980s, and I know that there's one big thing that changed everything from the 80s to today, and that was by the end of the 90s, early 2000s, the Chinese economy that became the world's biggest consumer of agricultural products. That will not happen again. I've been saying that for a while. I believe a positive for American agriculture is the realization that is setting in right now that the game we have been playing will not be the same moving forward. The Brazil issue, 57% more soybeans being produced, 50% more soybeans on 42% more acres. They're going to win the low-cost battle. We in America are realizing very promptly, and I'm seeing it in my speeches, and I'm seeing it with the people on social media, and I'm seeing it with some of the younger guard, if you will, that understand this is not your grandfather's agriculture, it's not your father's agriculture, and the realization can only help us with the mindset shift that we're going to need. Value added, some new markets, better trade agreements with countries that are not hostile toward us, and increasingly figuring out a way to utilize our own products. Three positives as I see them in 2026 in American agriculture. RFK could be a positive. A return to real at the dinner plate, a definite positive, and probably better for the bottom line of the farm producer versus all of the steps in between. And a realization. I believe we can do it. American agriculture has always adapted. We have always come through. We got through the Dust Bowl. We got through the late 1800s. We got through the Depression. I believe we can do it too. I'm here to say cheers. Happy New Year, and I believe there's still a reason to be positive about American agriculture in 2026 and beyond. Thank you very much. I'm Damian Mason. I speak on stages all over North America and right here online about the world's most important industry, the business of agriculture. Cheers.